Hello and welcome to our February video series. It's Mike and Ryan. Today we're going to be talking about having difficult conversations with your family.
Some of the most important financial planning doesn't happen on paper. It happens in conversations, whether it's with a spouse or a family member. It tends to be uncomfortable, right? And especially if people aren't on the same page, one of the individuals doesn't want to have the conversation. So really the goal, what we're trying to help you with is to start somewhere, have a little bit of clarity and perspective on where we think might be a good place to start so that it's not an argument.
Having the conversations when they happen earlier, it's usually better. It's less stressful later on. You want to be in a position of proactive planning. You don't want to be reactive to a crisis, because that's where more emotions come out and it becomes more of an emotional conversation. And sometimes there could be a lack of clarity from that all. I'd say just from, some of our retiree perspectives, adult children shouldn't be left guessing. Lack of communication creates confusion, not documents. And the planning just protects the family emotionally, not just financially as well. I find the best time is when clients come to us and they're like, yep, I know where my parents' stuff is. They said it's in the box, or it's in this place, or it's in that place. They have an idea of where it is, what those documents mean, because it's not just, hey, surprise, I'm going to open it up and have no idea what's going on. It should be an ongoing conversation.
And from the younger perspective, the pre-retiree part of the world, alignment at home prevents tension and confusion. And it's back to Ryan's point, nobody's pointing fingers if the conversations have been had already, and we're really just reacting to things as they happen versus trying to scramble and figure out where to even start. Busy families often delay these talks, and let's face it, it's easy for life to get in the way, but that's why we recommend having small conversations, taking it one topic at a time. Pick one of the things that we're going to mention and start there.
Who is the power of attorney and what does that actually entail? Who makes the healthcare decisions? Does your family know where the documents are? All those things are really beneficial. One of the things that I usually tell my clients is, for some of those power of attorney healthcare decisions, just keep it in your glove box. If somebody ends up getting in your glove box, they really can't do much with those documents. And at least when you're on your way to the hospital or something like that, you'll know where they are and you'll have them on you.
Who handles the finances at home? Does your partner have access to your accounts in the event something happened to you, and vice versa? The main takeaway is have a clear plan in place, because it's going to reduce any stress and confusion if something does arise.
Sometimes you don't know what preferences are and you're trying to read a document, and knowing the why behind what the document says, I think is really important. Just about your wishes, your values, what are the long-term care preferences? Most of our clients, they just want to stay and live in their home. Some people want to go to places like the Christian Healthcare Center, and that is their goal of getting in there, the Holland Home. What are your estate distribution intentions? Why have you structured it this way? So it's good to have those conversations, and so that way when you have to make the decisions, you already kind of went through the fire drill and know what needs to happen.
At the end of the day, it's your priorities, right? Things like spending versus saving. What does financial security mean to each other? And the goal here is really to find what financial security together looks like.
So also just going over and discussing the practical details. I mentioned this before, where are the documents? Are they in, a bank safety deposit box? Are they in a closet? Where do they live? And if you move them, make sure that you're going to let the other person know, hey, the documents have been moved. The other one is, who are the key contacts? Who's the advisor? Who's the attorney? Who's the CPA? A lot of times they'll have different documents of their own that maybe you might have to tap into and obtain. And also who the beneficiaries are of the accounts. I know for some of our clients, they earmark certain accounts with certain beneficiaries. Who are they? Is there any reason why? Did maybe you pay for something for one of your kids and not the other? There's a lot of different family dynamics that go on. And when you're upfront about it and have the conversation as a family, I think it really helps.
The next section here is how to start the conversation in a very practical manner. You don't want it to be dramatic. You want to have calm and clear conversation and address your agreements and disagreements in a way that isn't emotional. Pick a calm time. Maybe you just finished dinner. I want to make sure our finances are organized. That's a great way to start a nice line. Keep it simple. You don't need to do everything in one meeting, bite by bite. If you try to do everything at once, it's going to add confusion and complexity, and you don't want that. Clarity's key.
I would say the one question that we get often too is, when do you involve a professional? For certain estates and certain situations, you might not need to. It's pretty clear cut. You have beneficiaries listed. As soon as we get the death certificate, it gets dispersed, and that's basically all over and done. But there are situations where there's complex estates where a lot more is going into it. Is there illiquid assets, real estate, multiple states? That gets to be a little bit more complex. Business interests, all those different things. In those situations, you might want to consider involving a professional. Also, blended families. And how do you do that? And again, Mike mentioned earlier, you could make sure the beneficiaries are accurate and things like that. But make sure that you have the plan in place and disclose it with everybody so that they know beforehand. That'll avoid a lot of messy situations in the end. And the other situation is large assets. If you have large assets, you want to make sure that you are proactively coming up with some sort of strategy. Maybe it's avoiding certain estate tax situations in certain states and what type of class beneficiary for the state of New Jersey. There's those situations where you're going to want to involve a professional prior to, and also if there's any sort of settling of an estate.
A couple other areas, more on the personal side of things. You have disagreements and you can't come to a conclusion together. That's a good time to get a third party involved to help understand the bigger picture. You're lacking any structure. You really have no clue. You have accounts scattered all over the place. You don't, like I was saying before, you have some insurance for one, none for the other. You don't have an estate plan in place. You really need some structure. Another time to get a professional involved. Accountability, right? I mean, if you don't have each other to be accountable for the other one, maybe you need to have someone who can be an objective set of eyes and say, you guys need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And so that accountability can be really key in some situations. Clear communication today, it prevents uneasiness and stress tomorrow.
I would say if you need help organizing these conversations or structuring them, we're here to help. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see you next month.